All right, everyone, just to make the best use of everyone's time here and for anyone joining us and to allow for time at the end for questions, we'll go ahead and get started. Today's webinar will be going over the course analytics that are available to you inside Navigate and why that's important, as well as fostering student engagement with what reports you can run for certain activities like the lectures, getting an estimate of time spent by the students, as well as the quiz review and analytics review for that. The session today will be recorded, and anyone who has registered will receive a copy of this presentation as well. And so if you know somebody who is unable to attend, by all means, please rest assured that you will get a copy of that, as will they. We do have a chat window going through the session as well as a Q&A. And there are members of the team here monitoring the session today that will be able to answer questions. If there's something that we can organically answer as we go through the presentation, we will do so. But for the most part, we'll save most of these questions towards the end. That way we're not interrupting and stopping and going, stopping and going. At the end, there will be time for Q&A. Unfortunately, our system does not allow for unmuting individuals. So please, any questions that you do have, feel free to throw them into the chat or to the Q&A. And with that, we'll go ahead and kick off. So as a formal introduction, my name is Ramon Valdez. I am one of the solutions consultants here for the Public Safety Group. I have been doing this for about 12 and a half years. The solutions consultant team is kind of a fancy way of calling us the instructor support team. So any questions that you have as you're going through Navigate, as you're going through FISDAP or research, we do have a dedicated team here to reach out to you with any questions. If you would like to set up a training session or a webinar with one of us, please feel free to reach out to your account manager, which can be found at psglearning.com. We do have a contact page, and you can look up the representative for your state, and they can set up a meeting with us. And that can be a short one-on-one 30-minute meeting, 1 hour meeting, whatever it may be, or one-to-many if you have faculty that need to attend that. Whether that's a presentation on what our platforms can do, or a deep dive into how to set up a course or how to use Navigate, how to use FISDAP. So we do have dedicated resources here for you. Today's session, we will begin with a course analytics overview. As far as understanding learner engagement, early identification of struggling students, maybe students who are not accessing the material or the resources that are available in the course. It is important to identify any students who may not be using the course to its full potential or have not accessed the course in days. We do have research that we dug into here. There was a recent study at a Texas university that showed that students in 2024 who had 0 engagements, whether those engagements were considered behavioral, cognitive, affective engagement, or social engagement with the course, actually had a 78% retention rate, which sounds like a high number, but students, conversely, who had more than 4 engagements actually had a 92% retention rate. There was an additional study performed by the UK's Open University in 2018 and published in 2020 over CALT, or computer-aided learning and teaching resources, that concluded that learning resources should definitely be paired with an understanding of the reasons for engagement or disengagement, either through reinforcement of the content, letting the students know what is available inside the course, or even through feedback and surveys post-mortem. Why did you not use these resources as you were going through the online course? So it found that the analytics are important, but it's also important to have an understanding of why students are not or are using the materials. Additionally, we'll go over course participation, whether the students are accessing the course, time tracking estimates, and we do want to stress estimates here, whether a student is spending 2 minutes in the course or you have a student who's engaged and is spending several hours in the course. These engagement opportunities can invite discovery over why the course is not being accessed as much by certain individuals, and also educational opportunities over the online resources. Do the students know that they have access to an ebook, that they have access to an audiobook, that they have access to test prep for self-study? We will cover in the live presentation the lecture and interactive content reports so that you can get a better understanding of not only the performance for assets and resources like the interactive lectures in the courses that have that available, but also the time tracking and where to find those reports, how to see how much progress a student has made inside an interactive lecture. Again, this is all in the effort to support the student in their learning journey, making sure that you have insight into how they're performing, but also are they actually completing these modules? So we'll have a live demonstration that will go through the reports for the interactive lectures, as well as an estimation in the course itself. And then we will also go over quiz and assessment reports and how to read these. There is a very straightforward report that will show performance for each question that the student answered, but then you also have more detailed statistics and item analysis that will show you how they responded to each individual questions. And we can see a little bit of that here. One of the most common reports that you can pay attention to or will be the most important for you to run is the facility index, as that will give you a good estimate on the performance of how students responded to that individual question. And this will help identify questions that may need revisions or may need to have a question thrown out. You will have the ability to kind of see how they responded to the correct answer, as well as any distractors for that question. And we'll go over that as part of our live demonstration. Now, with this, again, just to kind of tie this into, we do want to show the course level and the course engagement and all the tools that are available to you as an instructor. A lot of instructors using Navigate will just focus on the gradebook and not really realize that there is deeper insight into some of these other assets and tools. So even if you have a course that does not have interactive lectures available for it, you still have quiz reports available to you and time estimation for student engagement. I will throw this up at the end of the presentation today. We're going to switch over to the live demonstration. Any questions that you might have, we do have a dedicated site to reach out to for any questions. We'll also have an opportunity to register for the next webinar in this series, where we dive deep into topics like the gradebook or how to set up the course, or like today, how to set up, how to get a better insight into reports and analytics. So pause just here for a moment, and we will switch over to our live course. One of the first things that we'll go over today is going to be that course estimation and getting an idea of how often your students are actually accessing the Navigate course. This is universal, whether you're using one of our EMS courses or our FIRE courses. All the functionality that we have here will be universal to those platforms. Also, whether you're using Essentials, Advantage, or Premier, you do have access, for example, to participants, which will give you at a glance oversight into when was the last time that a student touched the course. So if you have a student who has not touched it over the weekend, but that's definitely something that you have an expectation set forth. They have homework, they have online assignments that they should be completing. This is participants is a screen that you can use to get that just at a glance view. It also has the extra benefit of, if we have a student here who has not accessed this in 34 days, we can select their name and send an email. And that will send a message to not only the email address that they have set up for their profile, as well as Navigate itself. So there's kind of no excuse for, I didn't get the email, I didn't get the message. If you logged in the course, you're going to get a notification. If you have access to that email address, you are also going to receive that email. So just very straightforward, just kind of quick at a glance view here. Participants will show you the last time that somebody logged in the course. If I jump back to the front page, we do also have this right-hand menu, which sometimes will be collapsed. You can always expand that through that little bubble. You'll have a few things here by default. One of these is the dedication block. If we were to click on this, it will show a time estimate of every single person that has access to your course, with the exception of sessions that are less than 2 minutes. So here we can see my instructor account has been in this particular course for a little over 6 hours. We do also have additional students. If I were to click on Peter here, this little menu over here, I can see their session duration and see each day or individual days that they've had access. So for 43 minutes, this student has been in the course. We have another student here who has spent several days of access, 14 minutes here, 6 minutes, 15 minutes there. Again, any session that is less than 2 minutes is going to be excluded. This is also where we kind of stress the term of a time estimate for the student engagement. This should not be used as a hard line of this student has absolutely spent 2 hours in the course or has absolutely spent 5 hours and 15 minutes in the course. We stress estimate because we are also excluding those 2-minute sessions. We're also going to notice that if the student has multiple tabs open inside the course, that can also contribute to time tracking or skew the time tracking slightly. However, this should still give you an estimate of if I have a student who is not engaged in the course for more than 2 minutes, that is a student who is not using the online resources compared to somebody who has been in for several hours. So again, make full use of this to bring up that time estimate or insight into your students. Are they actually engaging with the material? Are they logging into the course and doing more than just an assignment here and there? I'll jump back to the front page of the course. Again, that is found over here in the dedication block on the right-hand side, and that can be expanded. If you do not have a dedication block, we can always show you how to add that to the course as well. Another very useful tool here is going to be the ability to pull up a quick link into the quizzes. And if your course has interactive lectures, you'll have the insight or the ability to actually go directly to all of the interactive lectures here inside the course. They're called SCORM packages. That's just the programming method of putting that together. We do also have the quizzes here and ebook links. This is by default a block that will be visible inside all of the courses. And if I were to click on SCORM packages, I'll open this up in a new tab. It shows every module that is in this particular course. We're looking at an EMT 13th edition course. So if your textbook has available interactive lectures for it, if you're using the Premiere for firefighter, if you're using the Premiere for fire officer or for EMT or paramedic or AEMT or Sanders, Nancy Caroline paramedic courses, the flipped classrooms will all have interactive lectures available. Inside the EMT 13th edition, that's our newest release here, this will also have virtual patient cases that are also built under a SCORM package. And you can see quick links to where that item is and how many attempts have been made on that resource so far. So here we have interactive lecture, chapter 1. It is inside chapter 1, chapter 2, and so on. And we have reports for 3 attempts. If I were to click on this, it will show me every person that has made an attempt on that particular lecture. And if I were to click on this student who has a 0 for their attempt, I can click on this, whether it's the first attempt, second attempt, or third attempt. Those will all be listed here by number. But clicking on this will show me how much time that student has spent inside that lecture so far. So 16 minutes, this could be a lecture that takes 20 to 30 minutes to complete. The student has currently only 16 minutes logged inside that module. There is also, with certain lectures, you will have even more insight into that. These virtual patient cases, for example, if I click on this, same student, we'll keep picking on him, shows 13 minutes on this particular lecture, but if I click on track details, it will show me that that student is currently on slide 18. And this is a little bit of a inside baseball here. So if you're looking at this, all these 1s and 0s literally means what slide of that presentation the student has seen so far. So that student is up to slide 18. And they have not seen the rest of the course. This can be handy if you have a student who has completed the lecture, or they're telling you they've completed the lecture, but you're looking at the details and you know that they've only spent 2 minutes inside that lecture. Or you know that the system reads that as being on slide 2, as opposed to having run through all 30 slides. This has all been accessed through the activities block. If you were to go to the gradebook, and we'll wait for this to load here. And if I were to find one of those particular lectures, I could essentially pull up the exact same report by clicking on the title of that activity inside the gradebook itself. So if this were the virtual patient case for this specifically EMT 13th edition course that we're looking at right now, or if this were the interactive lecture, if this were the interactive learning module inside the firefighter courses, you can click on the title of that inside the grades. It will take you to that lecture settings page, and then we can click on reports to access the same information. So multiple avenues to get to the lectures. We're going to see the same thing here for the quiz here in just a moment. So I'm going to scroll back down and we'll do the same thing here. I'm going to open up quizzes in a new window. It shows me inside this particular course where we have all of the quizzes set up. Inside chapter 1, there is an assessment and action chapter 1, clinical judgment scenario chapter 1. In your course, of course, you would have your own custom quizzes or assessments set up. If I were to see attempts number 5 or 5 attempts on this particular quiz, I can click on this here and scroll down, and I will see the performance of every single student. I will see how long they took and when they started their attempts. And I could also click on the overall score here to see how that student answered each and every question. And we even have timestamps for when an answer was saved. The nice thing about this is that if you do shuffle the questions for each quiz, when you are reviewing this report, these questions will be in the same order for you. So even if this student got question number 2, as it's called here, as their question number 7 or their question number 8, you're going to see it in the same order so that you know that this student answered this question correctly and this student missed it. Additionally, if we are on this results page for that quiz, there is a drop down here under grades where you can dive into statistics and item analysis. And if I scroll down, we're going to see a little bit of information here for the overall performance on this particular test. I will also point out that you need to have at least 5 attempts on a quiz or a test to get quote unquote good data. If you're getting 4 attempts and you only have 4 students, you're not going to get the most accurate readout here. But if I scroll down, we're going to get a lot more information on the individual questions themselves. So the statistics page will show every single question that was on that test that the students encountered and how many attempts were made on that particular question. We also see a lot of item analysis fields over here. I will say the most important one to pay mind to is the facility index. This is showing you how many students answered that question correctly. So if I were to click or if I were to scroll down, we have a 20% question here. Maybe that question is too difficult. There is a broad range between what is considered a good range for difficult questions or easy questions. And that range is roughly about 30 to 80%. If you have a question sitting right there inside that range, that is considered a question that will test the students. It will be difficult to some, it will be more easy for other students. But the system will also flag questions that you may want to review anyway. So in this example here, we have 20% of students answered this question correctly. It's flagged in pink. If I were to click on this, and then scroll down. Here we have the correct response. and how many students chose that versus how many students chose something else. So this would lead me to believe that every single student that made an attempt on this quiz chose one of the distractors that was available for that question. We have all of these that have 0% as a response. That could mean that the question or that topic is too confusing. The students do not have enough knowledge to answer that question correctly in a repetitive manner. They would not be able to have the context to answer that question confidently. So again, this is a good report to kind of take a look at and make sure that you have questions that maybe need some revisions. Maybe there's a regional difference and there is a different way of answering that question in your state. Or there's context that has not been covered inside the class by this point. So we have this is the correct response, and almost every single student chose something else. If for whatever reason you do need to make changes to that question, you do also have an option here to edit the question itself. And you can either rewrite that question for your test bank going forward, or you can decide that you're going to allow for multiple responses or multiple answers. And maybe you give partial credit to another response here. Or if we don't want to harm the student with this question, we can also make sure that every single question gives some type of credit. And that way you're not punishing the students for content that you haven't covered yet or for a question that needs to be rewritten. And any changes that you make here, you can just go ahead and make save changes or save changes and continue editing. The test bank is pretty robust in that it will allow you to set questions into draft mode or make duplicates of questions or something that you would consider a second or third revision of that question. Now, again, if I were to go back to the grades, and click on the title of that test, I can go to the questions or to the quiz settings, but if I go to the results, it will take me back to those attempts. So again, illustrating that you have multiple avenues to access these reports and logs. Now, if I were to go back to the main page of the course, you do have that activities block listed right here. There are additional reports that you can access to give you insight into what the students are actually logging in and accessing first, or even if you just want to compare what were they doing at the time that they should have been doing a quiz or doing a lecture. So you do have reports here separately that will show you logs for complete access by any student or user inside the course. And so for this particular student, the last time that they accessed was April 30th, and they were accessing the quiz assessment in action. Before that, they had logged into the course, and we do have more activity here. Kind of a bit to parse through, but it is especially for users who want to have additional insight into are the students accessing the course. Maybe they were taking a quiz and they were also clicking around in the rest of the course when they should have been focused on that, or the interactive lectures, for example. We do also have under the reports live logs that will show current access, and this will update automatically. So it will show you what students are doing inside the course itself. Now, we do have a question here about specific tabs to track assessment in action and clinical judgment assessments. Might need some clarity on that question itself. As far as we do have additional categories inside my particular course, I do have additional categories, but there shouldn't necessarily be separate tabs to keep track. Like if I open up quizzes, those are both just considered quizzes and assessments inside the course. And if there is a way to track who has completed those assessments, Lori, are you referring to tracking those from the grade book or just tracking those? Because if students complete these, if you make these clinical judgment scenarios specifically in the EMT 13th edition available to the students, yes, you would absolutely see that report either in the gradebook or you could click on the quizzes module and actually see any attempts that they have completed on that. But at this point, we will open this up for any questions that users might have. We can definitely take a deeper look at any of the reports and analytics for the course. And also, if we want to have the QR code for registration for the next webinar, we can absolutely put that up on screen. I do also want to point out that there was a change to the agenda. We were actually going to cover the ebook reports, and so that you have additional insight into usage, highlights, and notes, annotations by the students inside the ebook. Again, in the interest of, are they using the online resources available to them? Is there an opportunity to go back and show them how to use the ebook, how to use the audiobook? Unfortunately, the ebook report is going through some updates right now, so we were not able to show that on screen. In the future, however, if you go to the grades and you use this drop-down menu, there is an additional report that you can click on that will pull up the ebook report so that you can see engagement by the students inside the ebook, whether they're using the Navigate eReader app that we have, or they're using this on laptop or desktop. And we do have a great question here for test prep inside the course. If your course has test prep, does it allow the instructor to see student attempts and time spent using that resource? You do actually get to see the performance by the students. You get to see how much time they spent on that attempt, but not overall. If they're just sitting inside the test prep portal for 5 minutes or 10 minutes without actually running a test, you're not going to see that. But if I were to scroll down and click on test prep, and we do have test prep available for firefighter, EMT, paramedic. But if I click on the test prep right here, I can review student performance. And I would be able to see any attempt that a person has made here. We'll actually log into a course that I know has test prep attempts. Looks like this is also being updated. I apologize, but you would be able to see every attempt here that a student has made. You'd be able to click on that attempt and then see how they performed, when they started their attempt, and how long they took. The time tracking inside the individual attempt is built in to give the students more confidence. If they're using this to study for the registry exam, we want to show them that time estimate. You spent this long to answer 50 questions or 20 questions. So yes, when you log in as instructor, you can click on the test prep and you'd be able to see that time performance. And I'm just going to mark these questions as answered. And again, feel free to ask any questions inside the chat or the Q&A, and we can definitely respond here while we have the time. We will, again, also send a copy of this recording to any registered attendees or non-attendees. And for anyone who would like to register for our next webinar, we do have this QR code up on screen, but we can also send that link manually as well. Yeah, we do have a question here. When I say a copy of this presentation will be sent to anyone who has registered, yes, this will be available on video. You'll be sent a link to that. I don't know that this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, which we do have for Public Safety Group, but we will make a copy of the recording and presentation available as well. We do have a great question here for the webinar series that we have. In particular, this one, if we have new users that are running through the course participation, if we have any webinars planned for more advanced users, we're always taking feedback. If there is anything here, there will be a survey here that we will ask at the end that will essentially ask you for feedback. Is this something that you want to see more of? Is this something that you want to see more detail on any of the reports and analytics? We can definitely cover all of that as well. Right. If we have no more questions, I do want to thank everyone for their time today. We'll give you some more time back here. Again, please feel free to answer that survey and give us feedback on what you want to see, or if we revisit this topic, what you want to see more of. But definitely want to thank everyone for their time. Have a good rest of your day and a good rest of your week.